Greetings again. This is Dr. Bill Wyatt, and I'm speaking for the American Orthodontic Society, and we want to comment this morning about some of the questions people writing about things that we've done, and they've asked people to go ask their orthodontist or whoever's straightening their teeth if this can be done, and some of them don't realize how it can be done either. And so we're going to try to answer these questions. And in this comment back here, the person they asked said that this didn't work some of the time, and some of the time it does work, where you put the spring on the side of the tooth and upright the tooth. But I want to tell you, I have been doing this. This is one of these cases back in 1972, and I've done just oodles of uprighting teeth, and I have never had a tooth we couldn't upright. Now, if it's ankylosed, you got to crack it loose, but you can upright it even then. And it didn't matter whether it was a second molar or a wisdom tooth or a bicuspid or any tooth in the mouth. And I feel like that people going to dental school ought to be taught how to do this. There's no need of putting a bridge on something that the tooth is leaning like this. You can straighten it up and put the bridge on. Or you can open it or move the roots or however you want to put an implant in there. It is a cinch deal. And I'm sorry to counteract what her orthodontist or whoever it is said, but you can upright a tooth. If it doesn't work, it's because you just didn't get it over there right. That's all I can say. So let's get busy and go through, and I'll show you how to do this. Let me get this going. And here is what the person said, and I don't mean to counteract what a person is saying and everything else, but this can be done on anybody at any age, and even if they're as old as I am, you could upright a tooth in there. It can be flat down on the ground, just raise it up completely like that. So here we go on this. This is a tilted 6-year molar that's coming in underneath the lower 6-year molar. Now, you don't have to have any orthodontics material on the teeth at all. You can just get the spring and a little tube to put it in, and here we put brackets on the teeth because I just had the brackets, and I could have just bonded this wire to these teeth and put that spring back, but I would have to bond a tube on the tooth, and preferably you want to use a rectangular tube to do that. And we'll get this back, and I don't have a date on this one right here, but it was, well, 1986. I did it later on. Now, if you can just forget about the bracket here and just bond this wire. Here's a wire going right across here, and we've put brackets on because I just had the brackets, and you could have just stuck this wire up here and bonded it to the tooth, bonded it on here and bonded over here, and then you build your spring and you put it behind one of your bonds. And as this tooth uprights and goes out of here, it's going to move backward because the roots of the tooth are in bone. And as you upright it, the roots tend to stay where they are, or they move some. And then you raise it up, you can see this on the x-ray real plain. And now we raise this spring, and this part of the spring would be going down here with this hook up here. Now we bring that up, and that tightens this spring up. Can you see that? It'll tighten it up and hook it over behind one of your bonds, because this tooth is going out and this will move that, so this spring is going to slide back to about this point before we get that up. And it'll do this on any body. This is a child, and this is a permanent 6-year molar, and this is a deciduous tooth, and these are deciduous teeth in here. Or you could put it on somebody that's 90 years old, and it'll pick the tooth up and move it as long as that person is alive, unless the tooth is ankylosed, or where the bone is grown to the tooth. And we talk about ankylosed teeth in several videos in here. Now, I'm going to erase that so you can see it again. And now I want to go to the next picture. Now here the tooth is picking this tooth up, and this little hook is sliding back, but it'll have to slide a good bit more than that. Now we've got it all the way up. Now this hook was right here when we started. This tooth was headed down here, and I will go back there and show it to you again. I want you to see. I don't care who it is, what color they are, or what country you live in. It'll upright anybody's tooth. And if it doesn't do it, you just haven't got the thing on there right. And you can upright it. If it's not ankylosed, if it's ankylosed, you crack it loose and you can still upright it. So here we go. Let me go back, and you see where that tooth was. It's hard to visualize. The tooth would be laying down in here, and you bond it. It's got to be bonded on the side of the tooth. And when you do, when you bond it on there, it'll pick that tooth up. Now as this spring, see, it was headed down here, and we activated it, and this still would be here. As the tooth got upright, it's still pulling down in this area. So when the pressure's still on it down here, then we go back in here and tie something to this and tie it to these other teeth, and it'll pull this tooth forward. It may move these back a little bit back here, but it'll pull this up, where this tooth will be sitting right in here, and the root structure will be going down in this direction, right there. Now I'm going to ease that out of there. Now there you can look down at the tooth and see where the tooth was. Now this is a deciduous molar right here, and this permanent tooth, there's cells going in front of it, had eaten the root of this deciduous molar away on the back half of the root. The other root of this tooth was still in here, and that held this tooth in place. And we move this tooth out of here, then bring it up against it. It'll bring it up like that, and there, and then that holds the space open right here, even though it's just got one root on the tooth. And these are other deciduous teeth, and as this goes, now if anybody that's working with children doesn't know this, if you leave this alone, this will eat the root out of that. This tooth will go right here, and this permanent tooth will drift all the way over here, and your bicuspid that's underneath here won't have anywhere to go, and it'll screw the whole thing up. If you were to sit around, like many people tell you to, well, don't bother about it till you're 12 or 14 years old, and bring them in and I'll do it. And if you come in there with this ectopically erupted 6-year molar here over the bicuspid, very few of them are going to take that tooth, tear it out, and break room for that bicuspid. So you're going to screw up this side of the whole mouth by leaving an ectopically erupting tooth in there. And I don't care if you're a dentist and you're working on kids, you ought to know how to do this. And it is ridiculous, because you're not taught that in dental school. You can do a complicated all kinds of work and stuff, and you could certainly learn how to bond a tube on the side of an ectopically erupting tooth and bend a little wire that goes on there. And I'll show you that later on down the line here. Just let's go back now to the x-ray when the person came in to me, and you do a panorex, and it didn't care. This was in 1986, but I was doing this in 1972. I've been doing that for years, and I don't know how many teeth I have uprighted over this period of time, and I never found one that I couldn't bring it in. So I kind of erupted with this, saying, you can do this. If you fail to do it, then there's something wrong with what you were doing. All right, now this permanent molar came in underneath here, and it was eating the root of this deciduous tooth out. And by George, if you leave this alone till they're 12 or 14 years old, this tooth will go. It'll come on up and eat this root away. This will go. This tooth will come right on up into this area, and now your permanent bicuspid doesn't have anywhere to go. And most of the time you get in there, they say, oh, this is terrible. We can't do anything with it. You've got a second molar back here in the way, but you could, if you catch it, you upright it, and this was here, it would shove the second molar and the wisdom tooth back to bring it in. So you can do this. And now every dentist ought to know how to bond a little wire on teeth like that, and you bond a tube, and you preferably use rectangular wire. And now we're going to bring this spring up, hook it here, and that will make this tooth. You say, well, it's underneath here. It doesn't matter. The roots are down in the bone, and the tooth's going to move backward. I don't give a hoot who it is. The tooth is going to move back, and it'll move back if the second molar or the wisdom tooth in the way. If you put that on there, and let's show that. Now I'm going to go back here. I'm going to erase that and show you. Now there the tooth is after a few weeks or months or something like that. This young lady is 9 years old, 6 months, and now the tooth is back here. See this wire right there? It was over here, and now it's moved back there. This tooth was down here, and now it has gone back. This is sliding backward, and the roots are in the bone structure, and it's going back, and it doesn't care whether this tooth is in the way or not. It'll upright right there. Let's watch it. Now this is 9 years, and this was 4/18 of 86. April the 18th, 1986, and watch this tooth go back now. Now here it is, of 5/23 of 86. This tooth is sitting back here, just exactly where we told you to go. And you had, when it was down here, this spring was activated like that. This wire on this spring is still going down like this. Now, so your pressure on it is to bring the roots forward in here, and so you go back and tie that to this tooth somewhere around here, what you hook to, and slide this tooth up. And you can put a gradual pressure, and you'll bring this tooth to where it's setting right like that, and the root structure down here, and the crown will be right by this tooth right here, and this is a perfect space maintainer. And as this bicuspid comes in, now it'll eat the other root out, and this will go, and the bicuspid will come into the correct place. And I don't want to be so and sound irritated with people that say, well, you're a dentist, you don't know how to do this, you don't know This is a bunch of bull. You can learn this. If you can learn how to put a filling in a tooth, you can learn how to upright that tooth. And this ought to be done when it comes up and starts. Don't sit around and wait for this to come in. And I don't care who you take it to, and they tell you to wait till you're 14. This is a bunch of hoopla. This is wrong. This ought to be done when you see it. You see one getting over here. Come in here and raise this up. Now this tooth is sitting at that angle. See, I took electrosurge, uncovered the side of that tooth, and I got this bonded on the side right here, and this loop is down in the tissue. But when I raise this up, then this is going to go out and go back. And that happens every time you do it. If you've done it right, this tooth will move back. And there's the spring. Now, anybody can learn how to do it. Now, this is upside down. This part of the spring would be over in this area, like here, turned down like that, and this part is turned up. It's upside down and backwards here. I ought to shift it around. Now this is a rectangular piece of wire, and I went in here and we made 1, 2, and ran it down like that. Now that is put on here. This piece was back in here. This was, when this was in there, this leg was going down like that. Now I brought the leg up and hooked it back here. Now this tooth is moved back, and this is back. Now we catch back behind here and pull against this, and you can ease this tooth forward, and this same force on the tooth is bringing the roots of the tooth, of the permanent tooth, right up behind this. You butt this right into here, and you wait, and the rest of this tooth will, the bicuspid coming in from underneath here, will eat the other root out. When it goes, the bicuspid's got plenty of room to come in, and that's the way it ought to be. But if you leave it alone, I'm not pulling your leg, this tooth here will eat this out, and then this tooth will run up here, and your bicuspid's going to be coming up against the roots of the permanent 6-year molar, and then you send them in to the orthodontist. And I don't care who you send it to, so most of them never do carry this tooth back where it ought to be and bring those up in there. You know, I ain't going to be around all this time. I don't want to make you think the orthodontists aren't trained. There's a lot of them are very good at it, but there's a lot of them that would not correct that problem right there. And that's the way it goes. Now here it is there, and there it was, and there it is, and again, up there. Then we tie onto this, pull this forward, and this action in here, this spring is still activated. Then that makes these roots go forward, and the tooth will end up right up there right up against the tooth, and this will be finished. In other words, I don't see it here, but I think I saw one of the pictures. It'll be right in there, and these roots are going down there. Your bicuspid will come right up underneath this. It'll eat the rest of this root away. That's the deciduous tooth, and it'll slide right in that place. All right, let me go now. I want to show you one on another young lady. This is an eruption of a lower second molar, and it tilted to almost flat. I mean, I made room for it, and I thought the tooth was going to kind of, most of the time they'll raise up, but this one just kept going down. And it was done back in 1972 on a neat little lady here in Glen Rose, Texas, and she still lives here. And I could find her she has a business here in town, and she's grown now. This was many years ago when this happened, and this was 1972 right here. And she came all the way in to Hurst, Texas, and we worked on this young lady. And here is the x-ray back in 1974. That was 1972 when this is the 6-year molar, see, coming in here. She had a bunch of other problems like crowded situations. And this tooth right up here, the cuspid coming in. Now, watch this tooth. Normally, we took something out in here and bring this forward, but instead of this tooth uprighting over its roots, the blooming thing lay down, and that would look like a terrible thing to happen. But watch it now. We took teeth out and we brought that forward, and this tooth right over here is going to lay flat down. We made room here. We're getting this bicuspid to come in here. But watch that tooth. It just falls over in that hole. Now this was 475, and I didn't get another Panorex till something in 76. We were working on it, and I wasn't paying any attention to that tooth, and the blooming thing just lay flat down. Now that would scare some people out. Now this was bad enough. We put a spring on it. It do like the ectopically erupting tooth, and this one right here looks more. So you're going to have to maybe put 2 springs on it. But you got to be on the side of the tooth to bring it in. You can watch this. It looks like the spring's on top of the tooth, but it's not. It's actually, we had a little wire tied onto that over there, and the spring was down here, and it picked this up. Now watch it raise that right out of that hole. It pulled it out of there. Now there it is, in 8 of 77. This is a permanent second molar, and here that was. Now this, the spring, it doesn't here show, but there was very little of this tooth, and I'd take the tissue off and I bonded it on the side, so it gets the same force picking that up. Watch these roots, like this tooth, will come all the way up here. We move it. We'll go back now, and I'm going to erase that and watch the roots. Now they're part of the way now. You can't hardly see it in this x-ray. It's not a very good x-ray. But there it is after in 1977. And this young lady is still here, and I don't think we had room for the wisdom teeth. It seemed like we had to take the wisdom teeth out, or somebody did. Now, this will work on any body. And it doesn't mean, and I'm sorry if you take it to someone and they say they haven't doing it and they haven't tried it, it will work. And if you get it to work for you and you see how it's done, you will know it can work. And you could tell somebody and look them in the eye and say, we can straighten this tooth up. And you can learn to do it. And every dentist ought to know how to do it. You don't have to have any brackets in it. They just bond a wire on some teeth and then make this spring and hook it in there, and preferably use a rectangular piece of wire with a rectangular tube to bring this in. And so this flat down tooth, let me go back and show that again. It was lying like that, and you can pick that tooth up and there it'll be. It was not that one we're looking at. It's this one right here. It was that way. So thank you for looking, and I hope anybody anywhere in the world can learn this. Whether you're an orthodontist or you got anything, you can get a tube and know how to bond something to the tooth, and you can upright that. So thank you for watching, and I'm going to close out and say goodbye. I hope you'll join our channel, and I want to say goodbye, and I hope to see you again.